Hello and welcome back to Unleash the Goats, where we unleash ourselves upon the Star Wars franchise with reckless abandon, and nobody quite knows what we'll say next, least of all us. I'm Nat, she, her. Angela, say hi.
Hi, I'm Angela /Faye, she, her.
Sugar, say hi.
Hi, I'm Sugar, she, her.
We're talking about Mary Sue's today. And today is the first day that I have Googled the definition of Mary Sue's. So this is a big day for
Congratulations.
me.
It's a big day. It's this term that gets thrown around a lot in fandoms, and I'm not sure everyone knows what it is.
Yes. It's one of those things where it's like, I've heard this in so many contexts that I bet I could describe it, and then I looked it up and I was like, interesting. I was wrong.
I think I felt the same way when I was kind of researching, like, what is an official definition? And arguably there is not an official definition of a Mary Sue. But so the context I basically got for Mary Sue, for anyone who is unfamiliar, which I have just learned today, there are in fact people who never heard this term before, which was wild to me. This was a person who was not like totally disconnected from fandom either. But regardless, Mary Sue seems to have begun life specifically in like fan fiction realms.
First originated.
Yeah, kind of originated within fan fiction. And that it essentially was like a female kind of power fantasy, author self-insert character. Yeah, so the character is perfect. You know, she's superlatively beautiful. She gets everything she wants. Everyone falls in love with her. She probably has a tragic backstory, making her seem more sympathetic with with all the decisions that she makes. She can sometimes have a weird name that makes her seem more special, especially within the context of fan fiction. Other characters can end up seeming out of character. You can also see this as dumbification, that certain characters that are introduced as like being very smart or competent in this one context will start being dumb or incompetent within that context in order to make the Mary Sue look good. Just competent in way too many different things with probably very little explanation or context as to where that skill came from. Essentially just a female power fantasy. It's an author self-insert. Not that big of a deal. But as it started to become more well-known, people have started to take it out of the fan fiction genre and applied it to characters in regular media. It does get thrown around quite a lot within Star Wars. It obviously also, because of its origins as a female power fantasy, often gets used in sexist ways, that men will throw it at female characters just to kind of discredit them because they don't like them or because this woman is in a powerful position within the narrative, and that can seem weird, especially within Star Wars. So that's kind of what we're looking at a little bit today. We're looking at a couple of different characters who often have this label kind of tossed at them and kind of discussing whether the label fits or not. And also, to be clear, like, Mary Sue's probably don't have to have every single one of those traits, but should have a majority of them. They should have quite a few. So if your character has, like, 2, maybe even 3, it's not really a Mary Sue. Also, some of these are going to have to get automatically discredited for Star Wars in particular, like the funny names.
Everyone has a funny name. It's Star Wars.
It's fucking Star Wars, man.
Yeah.
Like, none of these people have a name that's particularly weird or different than anyone else. The other one that we have to discredit for Star Wars reasons, the tragic backstory. I'm sorry, it's Star Wars. They kind of all have tragic backstories somewhere. So that one doesn't really count either. All right, so we're going to start with Rey, because as we have just discovered, if you Google Mary Sue in Star Wars, really the first character that pops up and kind of takes over the conversation is, in fact, Rey. For people who were around when the sequels were coming out, you probably remember some of these discussions. It was really all over the fandom stratosphere sort of stuff, this idea that Rey was way too powerful without explanation, that Rey just could do all these things all the time, super powerful, whatever.
With no training.
With no training or whatever,
Yeah.
I guess.
I think it's the argument.
It's generally the argument, but there's also obviously plenty of people who pushed back against that, saying that she really isn't particularly powerful or great at the things that she can do in the beginning. There's certain things that she can do. But like if you just look at Force Awakens in particular, like we're shown right at the beginning that she has managed to teach herself how to use some sort of staff as a weapon. So she does already know how to do that, which means when she gets handed a lightsaber and has to figure out how to fight with the lightsaber, it's not all that far off from something that she does already know how to fight with.
And if you ever speak to, or if you have an experience with like martial weapons or like fighting hand to hand, you'll know that like a lot of those skills are transferable. It is not that hard to transition from a staff to a sword. Like there's a lot of very similar like stances and skills. Like once you know how to fight with one thing, it is much easier to learn how to fight with another thing. It's not like starting from scratch from day one. I mean, that doesn't apply to everything. Obviously, a bow is much different skill set than a sword.
Like a sword or something, yeah.
Yeah, but a staff to a lightsaber is not that different. Like, yeah, there she has to compensate for the weight and like all that shit. But like, if Luke can do it in a year, she can do it in like 5 minutes. It's fine.
It's yeah. I mean, like you said, like they establish at the beginning that she has an applicable skill set.
Arguably, she has more weapons training than Luke does, and Luke learns the lightsaber well enough to hold off Vader technically in a month. A month at most, he learns all those skills.
And a lot of it's self-taught, actually. Like, he does, like, the teensy little bit of blaster blocking with Obi-Wan, and then has 3 years where he has to self-teach. And Yoda doesn't seem to teach him much about lightsaber fighting at all. Like, he's doing a lot more spiritual and force usage training than he is lightsaber training.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
I mean, also, he was, like, busy. Like, it wasn't he who was full-time lightsaber training in those 3 years either. Like, he was busy in the rebellion. Like, he was doing shit.
So it's like, what little he does know is almost entirely likely to be self-taught, aside from the teensy tiny bit we see him doing with Obi-Wan. We'll get to Luke. But yeah, Rey is established as having some kind of weapons training, regardless of where she learned it, whether it was self-taught or not. She does already have something that she can then transfer over. So it's like, it's not like the abilities that she does have with the lightsaber are completely out of left field. And also, she's not like crazy good with it either. You know, she doesn't just, like, handily beat Kylo's ass here. You know, he is, I mean, for one, he's also very badly injured during that fight, which does give her a little bit of an advantage, you know, in that fight, to begin with, you know, that he's not at full strength anyway. But it still isn't even, like, a complete KO, you know? Like, she has to work for that.
I'm like, they complain that, like, oh, she's a great pilot when she's, like, never flown before. Like, she does pull off some shit, but, like, one, she's been watching a lot of training modules, which is, like, one of the main ways we see people get trained in Star Wars in general. And two, she's not like Poe. Like, she's capable, but she's not, like, the best pilot in the world. Like, she breaks a couple things off the Millennium Falcon getting it in the air. Like, it's kind of messy and awkward. Now, I feel like they actually did a pretty good job of being like, here is someone who is competent, who is smart, who is, like, capable, but, like, they don't have a ton of experience, but they're still good. Like, they're still, like, able to accomplish things, but not, like, perfectly. I feel like they actually did a really good job of showing that in Force Awakens. I would argue that in the second and third movie, she's a little... those skills are, like, less... They do less good job of that, of, like, showing her, like, doing a bad job, but, like, succeeding, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the secondary issue with Rey is that she's being written by 2 different authors and a bunch of executives.
Yeah.
All of whom have a very different idea of who this character should be and the part that she should play. And so it's like when she moves into The Last Jedi, which is really only a couple days after the other one, she doesn't have any time to evolve. But, like, as a narrative, she needs to. You know, she needs to have shown some kind of growth somewhere since the last one. But there isn't actually room in universe for her to have done so then it just feels clunky and sudden, you know, and so all of a sudden it's like they need her to be competent, but it doesn't really make any sense for her to be competent at that point. She should still be learning. And then obviously by Rise of Skywalker, all of a sudden they have given her a year. She does have a year where she was training under Leia, theoretically.
Full-time training. Like, that was, like, the only thing she was doing.
Right. I mean, theoretically, she might have been doing some helping with the rebellion, but seemingly Finn and Poe were taking over more of that so that she could focus on the Jedi shit, I guess.
Yeah, because they have that whole argument. Poe's like, we could help use you out there, actually. She's like, I have to train. Hello?
Right. So, you know, with the thing with Rey, like, at least that, like, when she's more competent by then, you're like, okay, she has had, like, a full year of actual training with someone who knows how to train her, so, like, this makes sense that she's now in a competent place in her life where she doesn't have to struggle through anymore. But I think the transition from Force Awakens to that, especially with the in-between period of The Last Jedi, doesn't work out very well. But regardless, like looking at some of these other notable traits, for them, is she always viewed as admirable by other sympathetic characters? I mean, sure, but also she's in the position of a hero, so, that's not that big of a deal. Is she ever considered superlatively gorgeous? Not really. No one comments on her looks at any point in those films.
Listen, I might consider her just be superlatively
right, yeah.
Okay.
Being...
Superlatively, I think, is the key here, because is she more gorgeous than everyone around her?
And also,
no, she's surrounded by gorgeous
next
people.
To John Boyega, they're
exactly.
equally gorgeous.
And also, I think the point is too that it needs to be mentioned. Just because she's cast as a pretty person,
right,
does not necessarily mean that within the narrative she is considered super gorgeous above and beyond anything else.
I mean, she's so beautiful that Kylo Ren decides to abandon all of his morals.
Is it because she's hot, though?
Not really, though.
What do you mean? That's what all the Reylo fanfiction says.
Okay, but I don't read that shit because they're dumb. That's maybe a little harsh. Sorry, Reylo fans.
No,
I'm not.
It's totally valid.
She's right.
We're no, you're fine.
I think, to your point, Sugar, one of her character traits is not that she is supremely gorgeous or has a really unique name or physical characteristic. She's treated as just a person.
She is treated generally as just a person, and within Force Awakens, a lot of her skills are not, things that seem unreasonable for her to have. The only other thing that I know people brought up was her ability to use the Force as, that she kind of sneaks into his mind a little bit at the end, and the implication is that she learned it basically from experience, that, he did it to her, and she kind of just, copies it back on him a little bit. But even then, it's okay, Luke is using the Force to make a 1 in a million shot, at the beginning, and Anakin does tons of bullshit with the Force in his first film with very little training, so it seems double standardy to be, saying Rey can't do this, when that seems like a fairly basic aspect of a Star Wars narrative at this point.
That is something that I wanted to bring up, because I think if, the idea of a character having, being exceptionally good at things and having these really rare abilities that make them stand out kind of has to be taken in context with the fact that when you are in Star Wars, the Force is a thing that exists, and some people can use it and some people can't. And so, if you can use it, you are already exceptional. You are already an exceptional character that can do a bunch of shit that other people can't do. And I feel like you can't just be oh, you're so powerful with the Force, that makes you a Mary Sue because you're too powerful. It's okay, but as you've said, Sugar, what could be the difference between Rey and people like Luke or Anakin that are also extremely powerful with the Force? Where we're mad at Rey for it, but we're not mad at them. That's so interesting.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, arguably Luke fits into more of these things than the other one, because specifically Luke is a self-insert by the author. I mean, his name is Luke.
Yes. To be fair, I didn't start as Luke, I'm pretty sure. But did it not? I don't think his name was No, it was Skywalker that changed.
It was Skywalker that changed. His name was always Luke. His name was always Luke. What was it?
Starkiller, wasn't it?
Starkiller, yeah. His name was Luke Starkiller to begin with, and so he changed it to Luke Skywalker. But it's always been Luke. And he grew up on a farm. He has an aunt and uncle. The whole. Yeah, it's a self-insert. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. He's a great character.
No, and I think that that's the thing that we're probably going to end up getting to at some point, is that, author self-inserts are not the same thing as a Mary Sue specifically. And I think that that's something that people are sort of, obviously, every Mary Sue is an author self-insert, but not every author self-insert is a Mary Sue, is going to kind of end up the thesis statement here.
I mean, if you're gonna write what you know, you're going to end up in that situation, because you're writing what you know, you're drawing from your own life experience. So therefore the characters you're writing are going to have character traits that you share with them. That's just how it works. There's nothing wrong with that. You can't be oh, because Christopher Bellini wrote Aragon as a boy from the mountains, he's 100% just super unrealistic. No, he's just drawing from what he knows. He's a 15-year-old boy in the mountains, so he's writing about a 15-year-old boy in the mountains. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah, and I mean, like, these characters fit into tropes and certain things like that, but that doesn't necessarily make them a Mary Sue, or, you know, and, like, Mary Sues are specifically power fantasies, right? Like Luke, yes, has certain abilities, Rey has certain abilities, but, like, they kind of need that in order to fit into this, like, basic hero's journey concept that they're in. That just is part of what they have to be able to do by the end of this story. And, you know, you can argue maybe that, like, you felt like they didn't build up to that power well enough. I might not agree, but, like, whatever. If you felt like it wasn't built up enough, you felt like it wasn't built up enough, but...
I mean, Star Wars just has the built-in Deus Ex Machina of the Force. Like, the Force did it. Like, that's just how it works. The Force is not quite, like, sentient, but, like, has desires and, like, will, right? Like, that's, like, kind of, like, part of Star Wars. So, like, if a character did it with magic in Star Wars, then they did it with magic in Star Wars because the Force has magic. That's the whole...
The Force has magic.
The whole premise.
But you do have to train in it. Like, they do tell you, too, that, like, you can wield it a little bit without training, but there is a certain amount that you also have to be able to train to do in order to reach certain abilities. But, and I think that was where people were trying to draw a line, was that the thing that Rey does should have been something that she required more training to do. And it shouldn't have been something that she could do instinctively. But again, I think you can make the solid argument that, like, all of the characters seem to have different instinctive abilities versus what they have to train harder in. And so, like, if this is something that Rey can do more instinctively, it's something that she can do more instinctively. Whatever. It's really not that different than, like, Anakin being able to do the pod racing at an early age.
You know, it really is a shame that they didn't decide on her backstory earlier, because I actually think that having Rey naturally being more good at, like, quote-unquote evil uses of the Force, and having her, like, still wanting to be good and, like, fighting against that would actually be a really interesting character arc. It's a shame that they forgot to write her a character arc.
Yeah, it's a shame that they decided that they wanted it to be a mystery more than anything else. I think Nat is about to tell us that we have to move on. But, so I think generally what we have landed on here is that Rey really is not a Mary Sue. Like, most people's issues with her is the power levels. And that really is only one or two things anyway. So, like, even if you agree that, like, yes, there's certain things that she seems to be able to do maybe more competently than she should, like the Force usage, she has really none of the other aspects that would really make her feel like a Mary Sue. And that, I think, is where the difference is to me. Especially since she does seem to struggle with a certain number of different things.
It's one of those things where, like, yes, as a character, she's written fine. Your issue with her is that you don't like that she doesn't ever grow. And that's not the fault of, like, her character design. That's a fault of the writing of the story. Those are two separate issues to have with this character.
And that's really only something that you can apply to her across the trilogy as a whole. But people were starting to make this argument after Force Awakens came out. We didn't even know what the next two were going to be. People just didn't like that she could use the Force against Kylo Ren.
People were just mad that she was a woman who beat up a white man. Like, that was the whole...
Yeah, that was the whole thing, is that Rey was given a bad rap for that in particular. So...
Which was
stupid.
That was dumb.
It was very dumb. So I don't... Like, I personally would not feel like Rey actually counts as a true Mary Sue in this case. I don't think she has anywhere near enough of the traits needed to count.
If she gets compared a lot to Luke, so if we want to talk about Luke and how Luke does fit into this trope, because there are a lot of ways that he does, because he's super cool, he's super special name in universe, you know, he has the Skywalker name, which is super special and whatever, like, he has special abilities, he's able to pick up things really quickly, everything does kind of go his way, pretty much, until, like, the end of the second movie. He's doing well, but, like, he's going on a hero's journey, and a lot of those things are, like, kind of synonymous with that, so it doesn't really, like...
Yeah, also, you know, again, like, this Mary Sue thing started as a female power fantasy, so, like, the superlatively gorgeous thing, again, doesn't actually apply to Luke.
I mean, he is gorgeous, but that's...
But,
again...
like, the character who's treated as superlatively gorgeous is Leia. You know, like, how many times does Luke sit there going, like, wow, she's so beautiful, oh my god, she's just so gorgeous, like, it's not... Luke getting those comments, it's Leia.
Luke was just like, wow, it's like looking in a mirror.
Yeah.
I wish he had said that. Maybe he does, I don't know. Funny. I don't know the originals very well.
He does not know.
But again, he's not like... that that beauty and uniqueness and everyone falling in love with him is not something that happens to Luke in universe.
Yeah, in universe. But in fact, nobody falls in love with him within the context of the films.
I mean, arguably Luke is more of a Mary Sue in Legends because everyone falls in love with him in Legends, for one.
Yeah.
He is the world's most specialist boy. Constantly. I'm not opposed to that personally. But that does happen a lot in Legends. Is people like, oh, he just his beautiful rugged hair. He's the Jedi Master. Everybody just loves him. And then that's a constant refrain for sure. He is described as beautiful a lot in the
Interesting.
books.
Right, but within the context of like the OT, like you called him as like super cool at the time. Arguably, he's not that super cool in the beginning. Like Luke is stumbling everywhere. You know, people are making like Han is just kind of constantly poking fun at him. Obi-Wan's having to like hold him back like he's a puppy who barely knows how to like go off leash without running after
That's
a squirrel. True. You know, like baby boy is learning. He's very much baby in the even the first two. You know,
that's true because he does like get fucked up in the beginning of the second movie. I forgot about that. He
very much gets beat up by a Yeti.
Beat the fuck up, yeah.
To be fair, he gets his own later on.
Permanent scars on his face.
Permanent scars on his face. He has to get shoved into a dead Tauntaun's guts in order to survive any of this. He's good. And I mean, I think he does take down an AT-AT during the battle. He comes back and is able to do some cool piloty stuff. But then he spends the rest of the movie essentially getting beat up by Yoda. In a number of different ways, before he ends it getting beat up by Vader. So it's like, Luke spends most of the movie getting beat up, let's be perfectly honest.
A little bit.
And a couple times he gets to be cool. And even at the very end, like, Luke loses. I mean, well, like, he wins, but, like, he has to give up the battle, right? Like, and he wins by, like, doing the least cool fighting ever. He's just kind of sitting there going, whack, 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 whack. Like, he looked better earlier.
That's what the fight choreography is. It's whack, 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 whack.
To be fair, it's cooler whacking earlier. And then he, like, loses all control, and it's just kind of like bang, 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 bang.
Yeah.
So it's like, Luke is arguably not always the coolest person in the room. I'm sure people saw him that way because he was a wizard with powers and a laser sword and stuff like that. But he's not always necessarily acting like a cool, suave, kind of person. He kind of has to make his way there by the end.
It's very hero's journey.
Very.
That's so weird how that works.
I mean, I would argue he's definitely one of the male power fantasies because I mean, if you're reading we read that one book. What was it? The Choose Your Own Adventure, whatever, and like the hero's journey that we were going on as like the self-insert character was basically just Luke's journey.
Which one you chose? Yeah.
I mean, yeah, but like
that's true.
That's how it starts out.
And they don't. Luke doesn't seem that special when you have a self-insert next to them that's like, you and Luke are both training this way, and wow, Luke's so good at it, and you're kind of good at it. And it's like, okay, this is how
all of your choices are the ones that matter, because that's how Choose Your Adventure has to work, is your choices that dictate the narrative. So it was like our choice that ultimately saved Alderaan in that one alternative.
Yes.
We're so great.
Because we're so
Luke
smart.
did nothing.
We're smarter than Luke, therefore Luke is not a Mary Sue.
What did we name that character? Bejesus? Yeah, Bejesus saves everybody.
I think that Luke, like, he hits some of them and he doesn't hit others the same way that Rey does.
Yeah, again, I think, like, you can argue he's just an author self-insert, but he also is just pretty basic. Very similar. Wow, shocking how the people who basically were trying to copy a lot of this stuff made a character who's very similar to Luke. But yeah, I think, like, again, this isn't a Mary Sue. Like, a Mary Sue is so specific, and it's just getting bounced around way too often. Luke is not a Mary Sue. Like, he has some of those things, but it's like, a lot of them are pretty easily explained away, too. It's not that big a deal. We were talking about Anakin earlier. Anakin has all of the same problems. Arguably, Anakin is, I think, the most Mary Sue-ish. Because, like, listen... Like, if Luke is out there bumbling around through the first film, Anakin's stupid little 9-year-old ass is, like, winning pod races and blowing up entire motherships, saving entire planets. Like, you want to talk about someone who's way too cool, way too early? It's fucking Anakin. Mr. Space Jesus over here.
Literally Space Jesus. Quite literally Space Jesus. Like, he climbs. Well, you want to talk about someone who's an unnaturally good pilot? He has never even done a pilot module at all. He climbs in whatever the fuck that thing is, this Naboo starfighter,
the
and
yellow
then
guy.
goes up,
Yes.
breaks their main thing, and then spins the fuck out of there. Yeah, sure, he has R2-D2 with him. Okay, and he's the one in charge of the ship. He's the one doing it. Like, he's 9 years old. That is the most Mary Sue shit ever. There's nothing wrong with that. It's a great scene. Very funny. Very, like, indicative of, like, how in tune he is with the Force and, like, all that shit. But, like, that if you want to talk about Mary Sue's in Star Wars, Anakin's right there. He's right there.
Anakin is, like, clearly the most Mary Sue-ish. He doesn't end up with a ton of people, especially within the films in particular. There's not a ton of people who are, like, again, exclaiming how gorgeous Anakin is or falling in love with him all over the place. There is a couple more in the show, like the Slave Queen definitely ends up all over him. But like,
I want to mention that, like, every time we mention that, like, every time Sugar says that no one talks about in the show, I'm picturing myself just off screen, like, while they're filming, being like, actually, you're the most beautiful man here. Hello.
You're not in the
For all
show,
of these
Faye.
characters.
And
I
we
know,
all
but
know
I'm just
that
saying.
that doesn't count.
So sorry. This is for all characters, by the way, especially Shmi. Every time Shmi is on screen, just picture me just off to the side a little bit, going, "Hello, beautiful. Hello, you're gorgeous."
But yeah, and I mean, like, and Anakin is introduced as, you know, all of a sudden he's been a slave since he was born. Like, whoops, see how that went. You know, like, never had a happy moment, pretty much ever. You know, but so it's like, so for all that he doesn't tend to have a lot of love interests, like, he does somehow manage to pull, like, the most beautiful, competent woman in the universe.
Yeah. Somehow.
By being a murderous asshole.
Yeah. Unclear how that works.
So there is that, you know?
Listen, he has a beautiful face.
Yeah, he got cast, but so does Obi-Wan, so, you know, we'll let
That's
that one
true.
go.
Obi-Wan was not available. He was busy.
Oh, it's just like, this
Available
is how he
to
pulls
Padme?
the senator.
Yeah.
Oh, well, Obi-Wan
Anakin
is
was
not.
over here offering himself up on a platter.
Oh my
and
God,
she was
so
like,
many
you know what?
times.
The other one is off somewhere else. This one is right here, available, beautiful. I will fall in love with this one.
Interesting.
Murder
I
and
can see
all.
that.
Love is all about timing. You know, he was just who happened to be there when she was ready to get married.
What a take.
The one thing that I will say makes Anakin arguably not particularly fit this one is that, you know, everything's supposed to go his way.
Super doesn't.
Part of the point of Anakin's story is that effectively very little goes his way.
Yeah.
He succeeds. He's the victor, but gets very little that he actually wanted out of it. Like, he very much does succeed at the thing he sets out to do, which is, you know, to become the apprentice. He becomes a Sith, he you know, so on and so forth. But, like, the thing he cared about doesn't end up happening. So
It's like when you win a fight with your sibling and then none of you get to go to Disney World. Like, you won, but at what cost?
yeah. So, you know, there's that. So he does, like, not everything goes Anakin's way. He isn't always viewed as particularly admirable by other sympathetic characters. He does 100% turn into a villain, and even during the time period where he is more heroic, although that is a little bit in quotes, more heroic, he is still very much a mass murderer, a sexist, a racist, a fascist during this time period. Let's not forget any of that.
Well, if
But
we're talking specifically about how
is-
other people are perceiving him, like,
about
specifically
how
he
other
gets
people-
lectured a lot. Like,
A
people don't
lot.
really perceive him as a villain. Like, he gets lectured by Obi-Wan, he gets lectured by Padme, he gets lectured by Palpatine. Like, everyone is lecturing this man constantly. They're always trying to, like,
Yeah.
put him on a different path than the one he's like,
Right.
currently on. No matter what he's choosing, someone else wants him to go somewhere else.
Right. He's never really considered, like, the best person alive kind of thing. Like, he's not always just doing the right thing.
If we're talking about the movie specifically, because the Clone Wars are their own situation for that, and we've talked about that before. So
And
we're
we
gonna-
will
are,
continue
but
to.
Anakin-
Don't worry.
I don't know that Clone Wars even has Anakin constantly seen as admirable by everyone around him. You know, especially within the first couple seasons, which are the better seasons, poisonally, poisonally, in my opinion, are the
You should
better
say it like
seasons.
that all the time. Poisonally.
You don't know that I don't. He is often, because like his relationship with Ahsoka is much rockier in the first 3 seasons than it is later, and so there is a lot more work that he has to do in terms of figuring out how to manage that relationship. And other people do comment on it and notice it and bring it up and stuff. So there is stuff that happens within the first couple of seasons of Clone Wars that still show you, like, he's still considered someone who's having to learn quite a bit. Later seasons tend to smooth both him and Ahsoka out a lot. But the earlier seasons do better at showing, like, he's still struggling and other people know it. Even in the later seasons, the whole thing with Clovis, like, they still bring it up. Anakin is still getting lectured by Obi-Wan because he's like, dude, I say one name and it flips you out and I can sense it. Because I am a psychic space wizard. Like, I can tell that you are flipping out when I say one name. And that's perhaps not great. The deception arc, obviously, is there. And, you know, you get a certain amount of discussion between Obi-Wan and Anakin there as well. So there's still moments in Clone Wars where you can tell that Anakin, while viewed fondly, is not necessarily always admired all the time by everyone around him. I also put dies tragically as part of Anakin fitting into the Mary Sue trope.
He does die tragically.
He does.
To be fair, it's not necessarily a tragic death. It is like his self-sacrifice that redeems him kind of death, but I left it there anyway, I guess. He dies. Dying tragically is perhaps pushing it a little on my end. But regardless, I think Anakin, so far, of all the characters we have talked about, fits into the Mary Sue concept the best as this, like, random abilities out of nowhere. You know, he manages to pull a love interest he really should not be able to pull, given what we know of him. You know, just, yeah, there's a lot of things about Anakin that are kind of, like, very power fantasy-esque, but I will say that they feel very male power fantasy as opposed to a female power fantasy, which is what Mary Sue's often tend to be a little bit more. Which lands us finally on Ahsoka. The one who started it all here for us. Was looking at Ahsoka as someone who I think does not get enough attention as a Mary Sue option. Arguably, I think what we're going to land on with Ahsoka here is that Ahsoka perhaps did not start life as a Mary Sue, but has perhaps become one later on in her tenure. Because obviously Ahsoka begins life as a little 14-year-old. She's very precocious, very impatient, very arrogant. There's multiple episodes in Clone Wars that do delve into Ahsoka having to learn how to manage all of these little flaws and consequences happening as a result of these things. And so she's very much not, and, you know, of course, as a 14-year-old, she's treated as a child. There is no, like, superlatively gorgeous thing happening here for Ahsoka at all. I mean, she is obviously a attractive character design, but she is not treated as someone who is attractive to other people, and arguably has never been. Even though she's fully an adult now, we never ever see characters reacting to her as an attractive adult.
Again,
And
besides me.
Yes, besides viewers in universe.
I'm there. I'm on screen. Just
You
can't
are not
see
on
me.
screen.
I wish that you were on screen during the Ahsoka
Just a
show,
little
because
bit,
then there would have
just a
been a
little bit.
reason to watch it.
Aw, that's so sweet.
Faye wishes she was on screen because it might have meant she got to meet Hayden Christensen.
Okay. True.
Anyway.
I almost met him one time.
You were so
That
close.
is so sad.
So close. It was so depressing.
I'm so sorry.
My life is over. It's fine.
I
There
know.
will
I
be
probably
another
was about
opportunity.
50 feet away from him at one point. Because he was at the Fan Expo a couple years back. I ended up going to see Timber Morrison and Ewan McGregor instead, I think.
And you're right for that. Sorry.
Lesson.
Well, I did see Tamora. I have met Tamora Morrison. But not Hayden Christensen. Which is pretty much as good. Just shorter.
And darker.
Yeah.
And funnier.
And different in lots
Definitely
of ways.
Hayden's very, very sincere in like
He's
everything that
very
I have seen of
sincere.
him. He's very sincere.
he's
Morrison
very
is like
genuine,
the
very-
opposite of sincere.
Morrison's
he's usually
over here,
very
like, cracking up.
He's
Yeah.
cracking jokes everywhere, which is great. I love that when he does it. He's very funny.
He's very charismatic. I love him.
Yeah. Back to Ahsoka. We got super
Anyway.
sidetracked for a second.
So she doesn't start out as a Mary Sue. However, as she continues to grow and develop, at some point she kind of like stops growing and developing, and she just kind of like starts being Miss Perfect in everything she does. She no longer has problems. If she's doing something, she's going to succeed at it. If she's...
Or the narrative supports her in it, even if she doesn't succeed. It supports that she was right.
She was always right. She's always correct. Everything is always, like, she's always 100% in the right in, like, whatever nuanced take that she possibly could have.
Yeah, by, like, season 4, she's wise enough, or even, like, back half of season 3, there's, like, she's being brought in to teach other children. She is wise enough to be, like, an advisor to a child ruler, child king kind of thing, whose parent just died.
She always knows better than everybody around her. Like, she's, like, Mace Windu could be there, or Yoda could be there, and she'll be more correct than they are, because she just understands everything better than they do.
Yeah. And then obviously, like, when you hit Rebels, like, she's being given angelic imagery. She is, like, clearly, like, considered so much more well-trained and knowledgeable than someone like Kanan, even though I think they're, like, 3 or 4 years apart in age. You know, like, she probably got a little bit more training than he did, but not horrendous amounts.
Like, she's being compared to Gandalf, like...
Yeah. You know, like, it's kind of incredible how often Ahsoka's moments where she's wrong are then narratively supported as her being right. And it's only gotten worse when we hit the Ahsoka show. Speaking of the Ahsoka show. Where, like... just even the moments where she's supposed to be, like, at her worst with Sabine, like, it's weird. It doesn't hit well.
The narrative is still treating her like she's correct. Like, it's still acting like she's right for what she's doing. And, like, she's just, you know, hasn't quite finished her understanding yet. And, like, even when she's doing something completely crazy, she's still right about it.
She also does seem to gain new powers every time we see her. Like, now...
Every time.
Every time you see her, she's got weird new things. Like, I mean, you get into Rebels, and I mean, part of this angelic imagery, she's got, like, some sort of weird owl thing following her around that apparently is supposed to be representative of this, like, light side goddess character. Even though, I will say, the light side goddess character, when you met her back in Clone Wars, did not seem to have an owl. But, like, this owl follows her around everywhere. She's got these new special lightsabers that are white, which is a color nobody else has. You know?
Because she meditated on them real hard. No one else has ever done that.
No one else has meditated in Star Wars.
No.
I believe both of these things are explained in a book. There is an Ahsoka novel where both of these things are explained, but if you didn't read the book, then if you just go from Clone Wars to Rebels, these things just kind of pop out of fucking nowhere. You know?
That is what happens in the book, is she gets her lightsabers back from some lady who had them, I think one of the Inquisitors, and then she sits down with them and she meditates on them real hard. And
you weren't kidding.
The crystals. I'm serious. Yeah, she meditates on them real hard, and they get healed, and now they're white.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a purification thing because the red lightsabers are bled from from the regular colors, but like when you purify a bled lightsaber crystal, they turn white. They don't go back to being whatever color they were before. They have to become white, and then they stay.
In fairness, this is cool as fuck. Like, more people should have this done. There should be way more Jedi in history who have, like, fucking awesome white lightsabers that they've reclaimed from Sith. That's
for sure. Like, the only reason we're bringing it up, it's not because this is, like, an unusual thing to happen in Star Wars. It's a perfectly normal thing to happen in Star Wars. It's just that she's the only one to have ever done it. And the only one who ever has white lightsabers, so it sets her apart, and it adds into the angelic imagery of her.
It's like the stupid fucking force healing for Rey, where it's like, okay, sure, totally normal if other characters had also done this. Weird that you're the only one. Weird that you're the only character who has this, like,
at least Rey, I'm willing to give them the out of... They used the dyad as a reason to going, like, okay, like, the dyad is like a once in every 1,000 years kind of thing, and if you happen to have the dyad, this gives you the ability to do things no one else can do.
No,
there is
because she healed the fucking snake in the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, but, like, that still is, like, dyad
you're saying because she's part of the... Oh, yeah, but except for baby Grogu, then does it.
Yeah, Grogu, I don't know where Grogu's came from, but Rey's, I believe, is explained as being specifically a result of the dyad. And the dyad was explained in the prior film as something that only happens once every 1,000 years.
You're much nicer than me, because I don't even give it that much credit.
I was fully willing to be like, whatever, the force healing, but when I was rewatching, I was like, no, there is an explanation given for why Rey can do it and no one else can't. Like,
it's just still stupid.
You might not like it, but at least it's there. Like,
you're allowed to still not like Grogu.
It. It's true. They do at least explain it a little bit.
Like, there's an explanation as to why Rey can do it and nobody else can. And to be fair, the dyad the diet is the bigger problem that I have in that equation, and not the Force healing. Like, I understand why you don't like the Force healing, but
Maybe Grogu also has a dyad. Who do you think his dyad is with?
Luke.
Ahsoka.
Oh. Yeah, because
That's why
Ahsoka
Ahsoka saw
needs
these
another
things.
special
Yeah.
thing for her.
Yeah. But yeah, and I mean, she's one of the very few, I think, that we've seen using 2 lightsabers, so that also gives her, another unique aspect. And she's got the, like, it's not just 2 lightsabers, but it's, like, the small one and the big one, so she's got this unique
Shoto blade,
combination
yeah.
always. Yeah, one Shoto. She's often, like, represented as equally as competent as the Jedi Masters, if not more so, especially in the back half of Clone Wars. There are characters that it sometimes feels like have to be dumbed down to make her look even better, and this is particularly in Rebels. Kanan and Ezra both end up feeling like they have to be reduced in some of their fight scenes in Season 2 in order to make Ahsoka look cooler than them. So it's like, like at this point it starts to feel like, wow, this is just kind of a lot that has been put on Ahsoka later in life, and so the more interesting, more nuanced version of her that existed when she was a kid has kind of been lost because she no longer has these flaws that she has to overcome. And even when they do in the Ahsoka show, where they're trying to like toss this weird brokenness thing onto her, it doesn't work because she still has to be like this really badass, perfect kind of character, and so the flaws seem really half-assed and they're not really explored or developed. And they seem to contradict each other. They can't seem to pick a flaw. Some of it is like she's too much of a Jedi, right? Because of course the Ahsoka show is Jedi critical as all fuck, but like she's holding too much onto her Jedi values, despite the fact that she's like rejecting everything Jedi possible in most of her other scenes. But then when she's with Anakin, there's all this stuff about how she was a child soldier and how that's fucked her up. And then the end result is him going, choose to live. And it's like, at what point was she not choosing to live? And how did that roll into everything else? And how does this even work in with her issues regarding Anakin and the idea that she doesn't want to become like Anakin, but then at the end doesn't care?
See, because the way that we could fix this so easily is we could just have, leading up to this, is that, like, Ahsoka is suicidal because she thinks she's corrupted by Anakin's teachings.
Well, sure.
And so the reason that she refuses to teach Satine is because she's like, I can't pass on the corrupted teachings that I have. And, like, having her, like, lead into this and be like, okay, I can take what's good from this. I can choose to live. I can take what's good from my upbringing and, like, reject the bad and, like, become a better teacher in that way. And, like, that's her, like, growth arc, because she starts it, like, depressed as fuck and, like, suicidal because she's, like, finally come to terms with the fact that Anakin sucked and, like, was a bad person and, like, taught her bad things. And, like, she doesn't want to pass that on and she feels like she's corrupted by association. That would be so interesting. That would be so cool. But no. But no!
Also, the character's name was Sabine.
Whatever. Why do they have Satine and Sabine from the
I
same
don't know.
fucking thing?
I
Drives
don't
me
know.
insane.
Satine I get, because that was clearly a jokey reference to Moulin Rouge. But
Sabine? Why?
then they
could've
made
been-
Sabine.
Bina, Billy, Sabby,
She could have been
Stabby Girl.
anything.
I don't know. Something else. I know
Something
they're like
other than
Mandalorians,
Sabine.
so like similar names. So fucking annoying. So annoying. Pick something else.
Yeah.
Tina.
It does definitely gets frustrating. But yeah, so it's weird. It's strange. I think you could make a solid argument that Ahsoka has become a Mary Sue. She definitely is an author self-insert.
Oh, 100%.
Or Filoni.
Filoni loves her. She's his baby girl.
She's his baby girl. She's his little pet favorite.
What is it
She's
they say
definitely
on
become his
Tumblr?
mouthpiece.
She's his Whoopi?
Blorbo from my
yes.
shows.
She's his Blorbo.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Blorbo.
she's his Blorbo from his
She's
shows.
his Blorbo and his poor little meow meow and all, his
Yes.
like
Her
cinnamon,
pathetic little meow meow.
sweet little cinnamon roll who's never done anything wrong in her life.
All of those things apply to Filoni when he's thinking about Ahsoka. Every
That's
single
so
one.
sad.
And then she also is his little mouthpiece. Like, he uses her to, like, say the things he wants to say about the Star Wars world. Which, like, that's how characters work, but oftentimes it's like the character does things naturally and the story that I am telling works within, tells the message I want to tell, but there's a difference between that and, like, I'm literally putting this character in here just to exposit out my personal views on this story. And I think that is kind of where Ahsoka has landed more than the first one. And, especially like with what we were saying where she's like Jedi critical while being too much of a Jedi at the same time, because being too much of a Jedi is part of her flaw. Kind of bullshit, you know? And so it's just, like, very weird and frustrating that this is how Filoni is choosing to use her, as opposed to doing something interesting with her. And it's too bad. I think Ahsoka is not going to leave this for a long time. I think she's going to be stuck like this for a while.
Unfortunate.
Yeah. So, after all of that, our main Star Wars Mary Sues are, in fact, Anakin and Ahsoka. Luke and Rey are actually doing just fine.
Mm-hmm.
Luke and Rey are fine.
Yeah, they're doing good, but, like, Ahsoka and Anakin are, like, they're up there. I would say that Ahsoka is, like, more egregious than Anakin, because part of Anakin's character is that he's meant to be, like, in universe, he's meant to be a Mary Sue. Ahsoka in universe is meant to be, like, an everyday person. Like, she's not supposed to be Jesus, you know? Like, she's not here to save everybody. She's not the chosen one. She's just,
not a
like,
child of prophecy,
Jedi.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas, like...
Right up until they decide to tell us that she is now the goddess of light reborn, which I'm still expecting.
Even then, that's something that's, like, happened to her. Like, she, like, showed up and, like, had that event happen. Like, she wasn't born like that. Whereas, like, Anakin, like, from the moment of his, like, conception, like, literally has always been, like, the universe's most special boy. Whereas Ahsoka isn't supposed to be, but is in terms of, like, how the narrative treats her. Like, she's always right.
I feel like that is the... Like, that's the main thing with Mary Sue's, is the idea that you have a character that is not meant to be the most special.
Yes.
And there are other people there who should have more power than them. But this person, you're just saying, no, this is my perfect little baby. They're going to have everything. And so you can have characters that have one or a ton of these traits that Mary Sue's have. Like Anakin, who's like, yeah, you're literally Jesus. Like, we're writing you as Jesus. That is who your character is. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, because that's how characters work. Like, you can't avoid every single character trope. That is how characters work. That's why they're tropes. That's how we get here. But when you have someone who is supposed to be flawed and supposed to be an everyday person, and then you pile on all these things that make them extra special and pull them into every single thing, regardless of whether or not they make sense in that story, that's where it starts to, like, create issues in your narrative. Because that doesn't make sense for that character anymore.
Right, and then the normal things start seeming special, right? So, like, in Tales of the Jedi, when they have baby Ahsoka at 1-year-old able to, like, tame this giant, like, cat predator thing on her homeworld, it's like, taken completely out of context, that's actually a relatively normal thing for a baby Force sensitive to be able to do. Like, right. I could totally see that being a thing that, like, any, like, a baby Force sensitive could absolutely have done. But when it's added onto all of the other bullshit that Ahsoka already has, it's like, she's never even shown an affinity to animals before. And now all of a sudden her defining Force sensitive moment is that she, like, tamed and made friends with this giant predator on her home planet, just so that you could also have this, so you could have this big moment where she rides out of the woods on the back of this giant saber-toothed cat, you know, at 1-year-old. And it starts to feel like the normal things get more frustrating as a result of all of the other bullshit you've now piled onto it, where it's like, one or two of them are great, they're fine, like, this is just, like, something that makes her fun. Like, the sabers, like, the fact that she had the dual sabers at the very actually, did she start with that? I think that actually came in later, but, like, it was...
No, yeah, it was later, because Anakin yelled at her for, like, being stupid about it. She's like, I'm gonna do what I want.
Yeah.
It's very funny. She's an adorable brat. I love her.
She is. But yeah, so that comes in slightly later, but it's like one of the very first things that they add onto her. And that just feels like a part of her growth, right? She's grown a little bit as a character. She gets one extra saber. It's whatever, you know? It's like, okay, cool. Yeah, she's gotten to be a better fighter. She's growing as a character, so she gets another saber. That's actually fine. That's cool. It's a fairly normal looking saber. She just happens to have two now, and one is a little short one. You know, like... But, like, it's just, like, more and more and more and more as you pile them onto her, you know, the fact that, and you know, even the fact that she was, like, helping child leaders and being sent to do, you know, to help the Mandalorian children learn how authority works, you know, like, it's like, okay, cool, like, that's just kind of, like, Jedi education helping her out here, but it's, like, in hindsight, now that she's got all this other bullshit added onto her, you kind of look back at that and go, like, dear God, like, this was just the beginning of it all, you know, we had no idea. Like, it was fine when that was it, but it got frustrating when it was just the beginning of the next 20 superlative traits she ended up getting. The only thing she hasn't ended up having is a billion love interests. Like, she kind of has a sort of one in that novel, but it's only a kind of sort of ambiguous thing because it's queer. So, it doesn't get made particularly explicit.
So, we're talking about Kylo Ren now. And Kylo Ren.
Oh, are we going to move on to the others?
We're talking about Kylo Ren because I've been thinking about him all week, actually.
I'm so sorry.
I'm sorry.
I know, it's really unfortunate. But I've been thinking about Kylo Ren and how he has, like, this thing where they're like, here is this person who's fully formed as a villain already. And then they start giving you his backstory. And they do that thing where the retcons don't make any fucking sense with each other, even though they're the ones writing them. And so he's 33 years old. First of all, 33 years old, hitting on a 20-year-old, weird. That's weird. That's weird. Don't do that. Second of all,
Star Wars.
That's not my point. The second point is that he starts his Jedi training when he's like 10, 12-ish, like a little bit older. So like older than Anakin is, actually. So a point there for the Jedi being right, that like you shouldn't start training children when they're 12 and 10. And then leaves Jedi training 6 years later when he tries to murder his uncle and everybody else in the building. Okay, sorry. Hold on. They retconned that. When he blows the building at his uncle and then lightning strikes and kills everybody else conveniently and he just wanders away into a spaceship that Snoke sent to pick him up. It's a very confusing backstory that he has. They changed it, Natalie. They changed it multiple times. First, he kills everybody. Then he doesn't kill everybody. And just like wanders away and like Snoke doesn't do, is like the one who did everything. And like also the Knights of Ren leave with him, but they maybe kill people and they maybe don't. Very confusing. And then, so we have this guy who's had 6 years of training and then runs around with Snoke. We don't know where Snoke got his training. He's a clone, so presumably it was like downloaded into his brain. And Snoke trains him a bunch of ways, but he's still like not that good, arguably. Like, he's the only one who has a lightsaber. So he's not lightsaber fighting with anybody else. He's just training on his own. And sure, that's what Luke did. But like, okay, so he's not like the best ever. And he has like a weird fucking lightsaber that doesn't make any sense. That it would be chopped up into pieces. Yes, it looks very cool. It does look sick. I will admit that it looks really cool. Does it make any sense? No, he's gonna burn his hand off. He's gonna burn his hand off, and then he'll be more like his like idol, Darth Vader, who has no hands. And then he's running around the galaxy.
He has no limbs, like, period.
Yeah, that's true.
Got him.
He lost all of them.
No limbs. He's a limbless man. So he's running around the galaxy, and somehow he is the most specialist boy out there, and no one can stand up to him. Even though it's been like 30 years since the Empire fell. There should presumably be a lot of people who are like better at fighting than him out there. Especially because Cad Bane exists, and it's like better than like fully trained Jedi. So you'd assume.
But Cad Bane died on Tatooine when Boba killed him about 7 years after returning.
That's
not
the point. The point is that like because they gave me Cad Bane, I have to assume that there are other bounty hunters at the same level of skill who can beat up Kylo Ren, and he's never run into them somehow for some reason. Cad Bane could beat up Anakin, but they can't give me somebody else to beat up Kylo Ren, just for me.
You know who could beat up Kylo Ren? Jodna Nawad.
Oh, yes, you're correct. Jodna
Nawad would kick Kylo Ren's ass.
He would murder him.
And then get his ass kicked in return. But like,
he wouldn't even feel bad about killing him, which would make me feel better.
No.
Not really.
Anyways, so my point is that, like, he is just, like, the most specialist boy, and the only reason things don't go his way is because he has to be the villain. And even then, he gets to die tragically at the end of the movie. So arguably...
He gets a magic redemption out of fucking nowhere by someone else's sacrifice.
Yeah, just, like, a super great magic redemption out of nowhere. And, like, arguably, Kylo Ren is the most Mary Sue in all of these things. I'm not saying that just because I hate him.
Can you be a Mary Sue if... Well... Is everything going his way?
I mean, he kills Snoke, so he gets to, like, be the leader of the Supreme whatever.
But he gets...
Arguably doing no work to get this.
He gets thwarted a lot.
When?
Like, Rey shows up and kicks his ass. And honestly, and what you're saying here... That's true. But what you're saying is that the problem here is not that Rey is powerful. It's that Kylo Ren is the Mary Sue in this situation of Rey and Kylo Ren.
Yeah.
And he should
never,
be...
like, gets murdered.
Yeah.
He should be dead so many times. Like,
it actually makes perfect sense.
Blow up buildings. Those crossbow bolts blow up buildings. We see them blow up shit in the same fucking movie. And it hits him and he's fine? What? His spine should be in pieces. His liver should be the other side of the room. Why is he still alive?
Also, you could argue that he is the only character in this entire franchise that has been really considered superlatively gorgeous because they gave him the damn shirt off scene.
Yeah, that was
which
annoying.
is like no one says anything specifically like, oh wow, you're so gorgeous. But the fact that they include that, it's shot in a way where it's like clearly they assume that you as the audience are supposed to consider him very intensely attractive in a way that like neither Anakin nor Luke or Han.
Okay, well that's not true because they do give Anakin multiple shirtless scenes, especially the one where he's getting out of bed after having his nightmare.
They don't,
but that's not shot the same way. He's shirtless, but it's not.
Is it?
It's
the
not like,
reason...
look at this man.
Yeah.
It's like he's in bed. Him being shirtless is like kind of normal.
It makes sense.
And then he does put on not a shawl.
They don't...
It's
like
a
a
coat
robe
of some kind. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. That was the word I was looking for.
They don't linger on it in the movie.
It's not...
The fans,
it's not shot
for
the
sure.
same way. And, I mean, it's like there's shadows on him a little bit, you know, whereas, like, Kylo is, like, highlighted. Like, there's a
I cannot believe that they filmed that and then they put it in the screen being like, yes, women will love this. Who?
To be fair,
Ray,
there's
apparently.
plenty of Raylos who loved it.
That's true.
Like, clearly it was aimed at a certain demographic. It wasn't us. But, yeah, like, I don't know that anyone has shots like that, where it's just, like, blatantly in there for that reason and that reason alone.
Yeah.
Like, there's no real reason for Kylo to be shirtless in this scene. I think he's exercising, right? Like, I think he's supposed to be in the middle of some sort of training thing that she comes in on, but, like, there's no real reason for that. Whereas, like, Anakin being shirtless just kind of emphasizes, like, he's in bed with his wife, you know, this is just waking him out, it's a nightmare or whatever. Like, you know, yes, he's shirtless, he doesn't have to be, but, like, but it's not lingered on in the same way, or shot the same way. And the same, I think, with the other one. I believe the other one is also a nightmare.
Yeah, they're both nightmares.
I think they're both nightmares, which again, it's like, okay, like, he's in a moment where he's distressed and upset and unhappy, and so that's kind of more of the focal point. And so you could argue that taking the shirt off emphasizes vulnerability in some ways as well.
What we're saying is that if they had made Kylo Ren more distressed and unhappy throughout the series, people would like him more. Because I would like to see him more distressed and unhappy. That would make me happy.
I think he's distressed and unhappy throughout quite a lot of it. It didn't make me like him more.
No more. There should be more.
I don't think it would make me like him more.
I think the problem is that they made
distressed
him...
and unhappy makes him look like a teenage asshole.
And he is. That's so weird. I don't believe you that he's in his 30s.
He's 33.
That man is
he's
16.
He's conceived. Canonically, he is conceived the night that they blow up the Death Star. Canonically, that's what happens. And the end of Return of the Jedi, that is the date of his conception. Canonically, that's what happens. She's pregnant 9 months later. She's pregnant and gives birth 9 months later.
Girl. Birth control.
Yeah, I know.
She's a rebel. Give her a break.
No,
A rebel doesn't have an IUD.
That's a good point.
That should be basic, like, rebel care. Hello, we're in the middle of a war. You cannot be getting pregnant right now. I don't care that you're not sleeping with anybody. You might in a high-stress situation. So everyone gets an IUD. All of you. That would be me. Especially she's a general. Hello.
I feel like she would. I feel like that is a choice that Leia would make.
Unless they're trying to tell me that she has not slept with Han at all between Empire Strikes Back, like rescuing him and then like.
I was gonna say he's a little busy.
That's
He's
true.
a tad unavailable for
But there's
a second.
like 3 years in there where you can't convince me they didn't sleep together at least once. Like you can't.
So
Convince me.
that's between the first one and the second
Yeah.
one. Not second two, because he is very much stuck.
Like 100% they're having like an on again, off again thing. Like, oh, this doesn't mean anything. This is just sex. That's 100% happening. There's no way she does not have an IUD. There's no way. Or whatever the Star Wars equivalent is. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think they should leave that.
We know Padme wasn't using shit.
We do know that. Once again, poor decisions.
Poor decision making.
That's crazy. I didn't know that. I wish I didn't know that.
I don't think I would categorize Kylo as a Mary Sue, just because, again, I think that there is, like, I don't think he is in the first one. Like, I think in the, like, regardless of your frustration with the bowcaster injury, like, he is pretty solidly in villain territory, and so he is given somewhat more powerful things. I think it's, again, only really in The Last Jedi, and then Rise of Skywalker, when things start going real wonky for his character and he goes off the rails. But I think within the first one, it's like his powers seem to make general sense with what we know of him. You know, the lightsaber is what it is. It's not really that big of a deal. It's Star Wars. I don't give a shit. You know, like, and you know, he is left pretty unsympathetic. Like, we find out that he's related to Han and Leia, obviously, but then he murders Han, and so it's like, yeah, he's not just going to turn right back around just because his dad comes in and asks him to. You know, so he's left solidly in that territory, but then he starts wildly steering off the rails after that in Last Jedi, and I do think that that's where we start ending up in this, like, what is happening with this character. Like, a lot of his, you know, motives aren't making sense. You know, he's getting the weird shirtless scene all of a sudden. We're supposed to consider him, you know, sexy, and oh wow, sorry, wait, I just remembered another character who absolutely had the exact same treatment as Kylo Ren, and it's the fucking acolyte guy played by Manny Jacinto.
Oh, so
Shit,
true.
yeah,
Bestie.
you're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's just hotter, so I forgive him for more.
Which, to be fair, he's just supposed to be another version of Kylo, because she 100% was just like intentionally writing Reylo and just cast non-white people in the roles.
Yeah.
But so, you
Yeah.
know, the fact that he is the only other character that has that kind of like superlatively gorgeous kind of shooting for his character kind of makes sense, given that he's based
Yeah.
on the first one who had it. But yeah, so, you know, like, the characters go off the rails, but that's true for all of them, just in different directions. Like, all of them kind of end up wildly off the rails in The Last Jedi. Nothing makes sense anymore. So, I don't know. It's, like, I don't think I'd characterize him as a Mary Sue, but I do think that, like, there's more things about him that make less sense, I think. Mostly because, like, they spend more time on him, and Rey just kind of gets fostered off into the...
Yeah.
into-
So his
into
story,
nowhere.
like, the details don't make sense up close because there's so many, like, things that are, like, conflicting in his story, and it's, like, really obvious.
So the last couple are Obi-Wan and Padme, who were just characters that people brought up. Obviously, Padme is actually quite often discussed as superlatively gorgeous. The amount of times Anakin talks about it. Leia, too. Leia has people talking about how gorgeous she is. They're not shot the same way as the men are, but they are talked about being super gorgeous all the time. Padme obviously does die tragically, but, you know, not everything goes Padme's way either, pretty notably.
I also think her competence makes sense. Like, she's really
Yeah.
good at the shit that she's good at, but it's not like she's great at everything. She does kind of hold her own with a blaster, though. I will give her
Yeah.
that. But that
I think
doesn't
is
feel too
reasonable.
far.
It's not that hard. Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's clearly, like, been training in it, like, for a while because she, like, all of her handmaidens are good at it, too.
Right, at minimum since she became queen.
Yeah, it's not like she picks up a gun and then suddenly is, like, the best shot. It's just that she doesn't die in the gunfights.
Yeah, it's
Like,
that she's
that's it.
like a fairly good shot. She's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
And that's like one of the only real fighting things. Like, I think we see her punch someone once, maybe, in Clone Wars, and it's not someone who's fighting back. So, you know, I don't think the skills that she has physically in particular go beyond the pale. She's supposed to be a really good, charismatic politician. I have some issues with some of her moral ambiguity, but that's more of a writing issue. And even then, like, I've been able to kind of make my peace with some of her moral ambiguity regarding her relationship. I think some of that's intentional. It isn't executed super well, but I think some of it's intentional. You know, so I think, like, there's nothing about Padme that feels like I don't understand where this skill came from, and it's just done to make her special. She is given, like, outfits that make her stand out, obviously.
If anything, she kind of, like, devolves as the series goes on because, like, she starts out,
100%.
like, super cool, but then, like, she starts losing things that make her cool. She starts, like, being less of, like, an action figure. She's less of a politician. For the third movie, like, she doesn't really do anything political, and she doesn't do anything actiony. She's just a crying pregnant mom.
Yeah, I will say that some of the stuff that she does in the Geonosis fight scene do feel a little bit above what she should be able to do. She just suddenly has, like, lockpicks, like, in her outfit that we've never seen her have before.
Yeah.
We've never seen her knowing how to do lockpicking, but she suddenly is able to just, like, have lockpicks that she's hidden in her sleeve somewhere that have never come up before. She
No, they
just
were
is
in her
able to,
belt.
like,
But
climb that
picking-
pole behind her.
That's
kind
true.
of randomly so that she can fight off the Nexu. You know, she just kind of kicks it or whatever, and it's like there's a little bit extra happening here. That
It's
like,
true. You can still like kind of play that off as like she was a queen and like was part of the handmaiden, so she presumably had the same training as them, whatever they needed. You can still kind of like play it off, but it's definitely not something that they explain in the movie. They don't like, oh, this is where I learned how to do that. Like no, like
yeah,
it's just,
it
like, you
does
just kind of have to
feel
assume.
a tad action Barbie, obviously. Like, oh, we need her to look really cool in this scene so that she can match up to the two Jedi characters who are standing right next to her, and so that she doesn't come off as a damsel in distress, but
also conveniently get her midriff ripped off. Yeah.
Yeah.
in the most sexy possible
Sorry,
way.
her midriff.
Does she? But like,
Yes, Nat.
am I remembering I feel like all of her skills in that fight, it's not like she's killing, it's not like Padme is the one in charge of that fight and kills everyone and saves the day.
For sure.
Like all of her, like, yeah, she's action Barbie for a little bit, but just because we're having a fun fight scene, it doesn't feel like a character moment for her to me.
No,
and
she's
that
like
is an
getting rescued a
excuse.
lot.
She also then does just like tumble out of a ship later.
Yeah, and that's me watching this from a young age being like, not knowing I was into women yet. That's my bias, being like, this is great. I love action Barbie.
To be fair, it is great. Like I think there's a little bit there where you're like, okay, like we're getting a little bit beyond what her skills probably should be in this moment, but like it's not the worst thing in the world.
Yeah. And it's not
so, like,
consistent enough in her character to make me mad about it across the board.
True. Yeah. But yeah, so I don't know that I'd count Padme as a Mary Sue. I'm not even sure she's an author self-insert. She's got some issues with her character, but this isn't one of them. Obi-Wan, I think same deal. Like, Obi-Wan obviously is generally a fairly good fighter because he has to be in order to have these good fight scenes, but he's certainly not always succeeding. He does get knocked into a pit. He gets knocked out twice, I think, in the fight with Maul. Once earlier on, which is why he can't get to Qui-Gon, and then a second time into the pit before he's able to actually defeat Maul. Yeah, he does lose in the fight against Dooku, and
He's always like a little
and,
bit worse than Anakin, yeah.
Yeah, and he does get knocked out during the Dooku fight. It takes a minute for him. He does get knocked over the side of a cliff during the Grievous fight, and he only manages to beat that one because he pulls a blaster to him. So it's like he's not necessarily always succeeding exceptionally here. He's always kind of at a very, like, he's good, but he's not exceptional kind of stuff. Obviously, yes, he's got a tragic backstory, but as we said before, this is par for the course for Star Wars. Again, not necessarily considered superlatively gorgeous. Obviously, he has an attractive actor playing him during the prequels, but this is not something that's ever commented on. He's never shot in a way where you're like, oh yeah, that's like supposed to be an incredibly attractive man. Like,
except by his ex-girlfriend.
Say what?
Except by his ex-girlfriend.
Yes, Satine says something about like the beard covering his handsome face, I think, once.
Handsome face. Ooh.
Although apparently the beard makes him less handsome, so, you know, take that for what you will, I guess.
She's a liar, it's better.
It's true.
So the last one on our list is Mara Jade, and I actually 100% disagree that she is a Mary Sue because she has her own, like, goals and shit, and, like, has a lot of problems. But you know who is a Mary Sue and who is not on this list? Callista fucking Ming. We should talk about Callista Ming really quickly.
Sure. Nat, have you heard of this person?
I have no idea who you're talking about.
No, so she's the second love interest for Luke in the Legends, okay? So we have Mara Jade and we have Callista Ming. There were wars fought over who he should end up with. You don't want to know the shit that went down on those forums. Callista Ming is a ghost who ends up possessing the body of a student who dies. She's like a ghost inside a ship. She's a Jedi ghost, whatever, that he like finds, and he like has to save her. And she's like this, oh, perfect, lovely blonde ghost who he's like kind of in love with, but you know, she's a ghost, so they can never be together. And then she like gets to possess someone who like went into a coma, and like their spirit is gone, but conveniently she can take over their body. But then after she's in the body, she can't use the Force anymore, and it's like really sad and super depressing. She's just like this perfect victim who's like a Mary Sue in the way that like everything kind of like goes the way that it needs to for her romance with Luke to work, until the writer's like, actually we don't want her to end up with Callista, so we're gonna write her out. And then she gets to do like other things, and like, well, okay, she doesn't get to do other things. She gets written off, so you never get to see her again. But she is just yeah, she's just like this like, she's supposed to be this like perfect, wonderful, the one who got away, Mary Sue, who like is beautiful and lovely and like the epitome of what a love interest should be. And then when they decide she's no longer acceptable to be a love interest, she's just like written off as nothing. Oh yeah, the person she possesses is also one of Luke's former students, so that's weird.
Okay, this thing I'm looking at says that she was originally a Jedi Knight who fought alongside Anakin and Ahsoka during the Clone Wars.
Oh yeah, that too. She's like super old. Yeah, she's like from the Clone Wars and like gets killed.
So
and, like, her
she
spirit like possesses like a ship and shit.
Okay, so she is Anakin's age, maybe. And then dies and is a ghost and then possesses one of Luke's students.
Yeah. She's like inside a computer.
Interesting.
When Luke's finds her. But so like it's not really clear if she's like conscious for that whole time. Like she's like in
Is she aging more?
But like she's like
I mean,
it's kind of like the
she can't
Hazels.
physically age.
Yeah, she's
Well,
not
like
physically aging,
mentally.
but, like, mentally, like presumably because she's like mostly conscious.
I don't know. Who can say?
Who can say? Who can say? She does like when Luke is there, she's like alive and conscious. So presumably she can be.
I am on, I don't know what this article is, but there's it's like 10 of Luke's girlfriends. And at the bottom, there's a little poll that says, which character do you prefer? And it's 85% Mara Jade. So
she's better.
Makes sense, given that she's the one he does actually end up with and has kids with and stuff. It's going to be the one that most people are familiar with, probably.
Yeah, but Callista Ming is only 3%. Yeah. So the fandom, they may have fought in the beginning, but now we are landing on one team.
I mean, the Callista fans moved on. They went other places. They didn't. They didn't have other things for her to do. Anyway, so I reject the Mara Jade accusations because she does have a tragic backstory. She does die tragically. However, she has her own goals and her own flaws and her own like arcs and journeys and shit. And she does not have magical special powers that make her super better than everybody else. She's just like a smuggler who's like she's not as powerful in the Force as like other people. Like she's competent, but she's not like crazy. Special.
Yeah, just having read the Thrawn trilogy, and so I didn't even get to the point where she is a love interest.
Yeah, she's not
in full, like, she definitely does not fit the Mary Sue mold at all. She's not even really what I would consider an author self-insert at that point. Like,
no, she's just a cool character that he made.
She's just a cool character he made up. I mean, like, and I'm sure that like there are other places where she comes off perhaps less nuanced than in the Thrawn trilogy, especially once she lands in stronger love interest territory. But the first 3 books that she's in alone, she's not that at all.
Isn't she competent because she's like trained her entire life?
Yeah, also
kill
that
Luke?
she's like, yeah, well, not to kill Luke specifically, but she's been trained as like a spy assassin like since she was like 8 or 6 or something, like really young. So all of her skills are things that she's like learned the whole time. And when she does, she's not competent in the Force when she first meets Luke because like that was something that like Palpatine like never really trained her on because he didn't want her to be better than him. Which is silly because she's not that strong.
Checks out.
But that is something that she like over the 10 years before she becomes Luke's like love interest, like she like pops in sometimes to get trained, and like that's like a thing. Like it's like he's always like, hey, you should get trained more. And she's like, but like, do I need to? I have a lot of trauma associated with that. And like eventually she does like get trained properly, but like it's not something that she's like magically good at one day. Like she does have to get training to be better at the Force shit.
That makes sense.
Anyways. Those are our Mary Sues and our not Mary Sues.
And our not Mary
Boos.
Sues.
Our Larry Boos.
Yeah, our Mary Sues, our Mark Stews, and everything in between.
Would you guys like a goat fact?
I would love a goat fact.
Yes. Okay, so here's how goats are Mary Sues. They have a unique digestion. They have 4 stomachs like cow, sheep, and deer, but goats are known as ruminants. So they have a complex system of stomachs for digestion. They have 4 compartments. And they're super, listen, unlike dogs, who are very basic, very boring, and they just have, like, the one stomach. Goats.
I like that you went for dogs and not humans.
Goats have microbial digestion in the first 2 compartments, and then they have acidic digestion in the next 2 compartments. So then as nutrients are absorbed in the small intestine as they go through. And so they're super special. And it takes 11 to 15 hours for food to pass through all 4 stomachs.
Damn.
Takes them a long time because they're super special.
Because they're super extra special.
Yeah. Goats are the real Mary Sues.
Everyone falls in love with goats.
That's true.
They're superlatively beautiful. Superlatively beautiful.
Superlatively gorgeous. Our intro and outro music is Moss Eisley Cantina by Speedkicks. Angela and I edit, our artwork is by me, and Sugar is our writer and researcher. You can find us on Instagram and Tumblr at Unleash the Goats. Thanks for listening.